The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on.
He missed the complete. That is crazy
As I
stuff.
said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Like most road courses in the US, Watkins Glen was born out of a realization that racing on the roads was too dangerous. And while Watkins Glen International proved to be a step up in safety at the time, it's retained much of its old school feel over the years. Because of that, it's become one of the most popular circuits on the Lotus 49 schedule. Strap in for one of the most unpredictable and intense races this season. You're watching round 6 of the Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering for Sean Ambrose is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, the Glen is another place where the 49 raced for real back in 1967. Tell us about this wickedly fast layout.
Yeah, you mentioned the layout, Joe. There's actually 4 here at Watkins Glen, but when we bring up a track map here, you'll see this is the one with the least amount of turns and also the least amount of miles. Only 2.45 miles, that's 3.94 kilometers, just a tick under 4 kilometers in length, with only 7 turns. However, as any driver who has raced the Lotus 49 in the past would know, even the straightaway can count as a turn, or a turn can count as 2 corners around here based on how your car is handling. We're going to be racing here for 45 laps today, and we expect to see a lot of pack racing between these drivers. But before we get down to that, let's see what it looks like a single car lap around this track with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Watkins Glen. Coming out of turn 1, this will be a popular spot to pass, but be sure not to outbrake yourself and swing wide. It'll cost you a lot of time on the lap. Plus, if anyone stays close behind after you pass them, you'll see they might be able to get it back pretty easily later on. Up into the S's, throttle control and hugging the insides of the corners will be key. Setting yourself up for the backstretch is what you really want. Even in 4th gear on this last right-hander, the rear wants to break out. Here's where a driver close behind can sometimes use the draft to slingshot past. The most common place for overtakes is most likely going to be at the end of the backstretch into the carousel. You're hitting this corner at very high speeds, so there's lots of braking. And with this being the classic layout, ideally you want to diamond off the corner by letting it drift wide in the middle. It almost acts more like a very long and heavily cambered hairpin than it does a typical carousel corner. That should let you get to the power sooner and give you a little bit more speed into the penultimate turn. This left-hander works best if you can tuck it in nice and tight to the apex. The banking helps you carry your momentum. Then, switch sides quick for the final turn. Getting to the power off of here will require a gentle right foot to keep from hitting the tires or spinning it to the inside. Hopefully you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Watkins Glen. Should give you a sense of speed of what it's like whipping around here in these Lotus 49s there in the lap guide. Now, we have a championship that we keep track of here in the Racing for World Cup Challenge. And Sam, where do the points sit today?
Very, very close, Joe, as it has been throughout the first 4 rounds of a championship. You see that at the top of the point standings, we have Michael Dudognan, just 4 points ahead of Casper de Court there, second in the points. But then look at that, -4, -4, -4, -4. We basically have a 4-way tie for second position in the points between Casper de Court, and also you got Benjamin J. Sissoko behind him, as well as William Wright and Drake Olstead. And then further back in the points, it's all quite close as well. In fact, you have to go back to about even 9th place in the points is only 15 points back of our championship leader after just the opening 4 rounds of a series. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shapes up as the rest of the season goes on.
Of course, there's a Constructors' Championship, and they count it by nations as they did back in 1967 here in the Lotus 49 series. United States leading the way, surprisingly this year, doing very good up at the top, but it's not far back to France, which is closing rapidly. Michel Dudagnan, of course, contributing pretty much everything there. Australia only 7 back in 3rd, very tight fight between themselves and the Netherlands. Casper de Court contributing his Dutch points in there, bringing them to 4th. And Mick Claridge having a bit of trouble with injury this season, running down in 5th. Now, we call this the Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge, and there's good reason. The organizers decided to dedicate this series to someone who's been a huge fan his whole life. His name is Rick Emerson, and he has been battling ALS for over 4 years now. He's a close personal friend of the promoters, and all the money that we are raising this season for the ALS charity will not go directly to Rick. It will help him because it is all going to the ALS Foundation, the ALS Association, I should say, to contribute to all the research that they are trying to raise to help fight this debilitating disease. If you want to help contribute to this charity, we have a link in the YouTube description. We'll have that up every race all season long, and we highly encourage everyone to contribute all that they can to try and help us fight this debilitating disease. Now, Sam, I know we talked about how it's going to be a bit of a draft race, but passing's still important. What are some of the spots that you think guys are maybe going to be doing some overtaking out there today?
Well, we're watching Suzuko come down into one of those, and that's turn 1. The problem with trying to make a pass in turn 1 is if you do not get a good exit out of a turn, you are going to be prey for the predators behind you as you run through the S's and down the long back straight all the way to the outer loop, because that is definitely also an overtaking opportunity. And then you have a run after that down to Indianapolis. So basically, if you watch NASCAR, this is basically the cup course without the chicane, and that penultimate turn there's a good passing opportunity. Now, I know I didn't do too well with pronouncing Michel de Duyon's name there in the championship, Joe, but I'm watching these drivers qualify right now, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like our points leader is here. As a matter of fact, our highest driver in the points is Benjamin Suzuko. We saw him on screen just a moment ago. He currently has the second fastest time in qualifying, which you see going on here right now.
Indeed, at 16 drivers, a little bit of a low participation day for a track like this, which tends to bring drivers out of the woodworks. But some of that is attributed to the 24 Hours of Spa on iRacing, which is going to be taking part in just a little bit of time. And as we watch Dmitry Goncharov, I believe, finishing his second lap here. Yes, let's see where he puts himself. He's currently 14th in qualifying. Is he going to be able to improve a time? And it doesn't look like he does. Only one left out on track, able to improve on his second lap, is going to be AJ Bear. He's sitting on the pole, which means he will be the pole sitter. But can he up his time just that little bit more? He's already got 3/10, which is a lot around this short track. And as he comes across the line, looks like he does not improve, but that doesn't hurt AJ. And that is going to be our field for today. Let's go through our grid. AJ Bear going to be on the pole, followed by Benjamin Zoko on the outside of row 1. Jack Ulstead, great qualifying from Jack, starting on row 2 there. Brett Rial starting in 4th. In the top 5, Mick Claridge still suffering from his shoulder a little bit, but slowly recovering. He said that he's not going to add the extra weight penalty anymore, as just dealing with his shoulder makes it a bit too much, and he thinks that's enough disadvantage for him to have to deal with. Still, he only was able to get himself up to 5th. Starting in 6th, it is Michael Langford with Billy Bob Wright starting in 7th. Andrew Ang is going to start the race in 8th, followed by Hideki Koivisto in P9. And rounding out the top 10, Sam, it is Don Good.
Yeah, now you see the second page of a screen. We're about 2 seconds back here, with it being a single split. Simon Shaw ahead of Ian Bassi. Jerry Lee Sweetland in 13th place ahead of Dmitry Goncharov. And then the last driver to turn the time was Telmo Amaro. Kyle Fisher, you see the name there. However, he did not turn the time in qualifying and is actually not in the session right now, so it looks like we will just have a 15-car field. Joe, I mentioned how we have Benjamin Zoko out there, but we also have William Wright and Drake Olstead, who are tied for second in the points. They're all 4 points back of our championship leader. And AJ Bear, he's still turning laps here. He's already done his qualifying times. He's just having some fun out here. But with the fact that he qualified 0.3 of a second faster than the rest of the competition, Joe, I have a feeling this is a driver we'll see up front a lot today.
Yeah, I suspect the same thing. As it's definitely some of our front runners out there, but missing a few big names. We don't have Ove Trangerade back today. Like I said, I think a few of these drivers are going to be out at Spa, out in a sports car, in a GT3 cars, trying to see what they can do in that famous endurance race. But that's not going to make the racing any less out there with 15 cars around a relatively short and fast track, as the checkered flag is out on qualifying, which means the drivers will start gridding up, and we're going to go racing for 45 laps. That's how short the laps are around here. Going to be a 50-minute race that they are able to chalk in those 45 laps. So as they all take to the grid, up in front of those famous red and yellow stands here at Watkins Glen, the downhill plunge into the 90. Everybody going to want to try and give one another room down into that tight right-hander. Thankfully, lots of runoff to the outside. But still, these open-wheel cars are going to not want to make side-by-side contact. Tends to be a little bit disastrous.
Still waiting for our pole sitter of the grid up there, Joe. You see Zoko is on the right side of the grid and Drac Olstead is on the inside. There he is.
Yes, AJ Bear now having taken right in front of the line. So we're waiting for the lights to come up. I see one more driver still missing in a spot back there in about 6th or 7th. And now the lights are up. Green flag is out, and we are away at Watkins Glen. AJ Bear gets a great jump off the line. Benjamin Zoko has no answer. Just about dead even with Jack Olstead in second. A challenge for fourth, but Mick Claridge manages to hold off Brett Rial. They come through clean. Now it's up through the S's, Sam.
Yeah, and the S is, of course, definitely not straight. In any other car, you could probably do it flat out, but here it's a challenge. But fortunately, aerodynamics not too important, so they can all run right at the back of each other and get through there without their cars pushing too much. But who can get a run? We see a pass taking place for third with Jack Olstead on the outside. Mick Claridge looking for that position down the inside.
Big bobble to the inside, and we got a car
upside down.
Off. Billy Bob right with a hard slam into the tires as he tangles with the car of Michael Langford. It looks like Langford outbraked himself. We're going to see on the replay here, Sam.
Yeah, there must have been a couple of cars involved here, as you mentioned.
Well, it looks like it was only two, Billy Bob and Langford. And unfortunately for Billy Bob, he's the one that really came out the worst of it. Langford continues on in the 8th position. That did lose him 2 spots. Wonder how much damage he got out of that. You can see just really slid it in there as they come back live now.
Yeah, Wright is out of a race, so we'll see if I think Langford's continued on course, so he might not have too much damage. You see here, though, the top 2 cars in close proximity. Let's see if Zoko makes a move on lap 2. If not, he's just biding his time. 43 laps left to go.
14 cars still out there circulating. You can see them all getting line astern down the backstretch. Last time we were here last season, it was an incredible fight between the top 5. It slowly whittled its way down to about 3 on the final lap, but it was a back and forth the whole way. We expect that. Let's see, though, if the drivers have learned anything from the last one, because right now, not as much swapping for positions up at the front here, Sam.
Well, we saw at the end of qualifying, Bear was seeing how much he could get away with drifting his car, and now we see the practicality of that. He's really letting the rear end swing out in the outer loop. Meanwhile, had a couple cars off at the back of the field at Indianapolis last time around. Don Good and Ian Bassi just ran off. They rejoined though, but lost a position or 2.
Bit of a pack going for 6th place. Andrew Ang leading Hideki Koivisto and Michael Langford as they come up the backstretch. Could see some passes here if they could get a good run, but Ang up at the top of the train gets the best run of them, which denies the opportunity for Koivisto and Langford. So they're going to stay in line as they come up to the carousel.
Or maybe not, because Langford looking down the inside. Remember, he has that damage on the front end of his car. Doesn't seem to be bugging him too much. I wonder though, Joe, about these cars. I know you've had plenty of experience with them. these are open setups, but really how much can you play with your setup to get a better straight line speed down that back straight?
Well, about all you can do is change the gearing, I can tell you that, and I didn't fiddle with that too much. I imagine maybe there's something that you could possibly do with the suspension and the differential, but if you get it right, you are flat out coming through the final right-hander, the S's, and that hasn't changed from my experiences. We got passes here as Hideki Koivisto looks to the inside of Andrew Ng down into the 90, and he gets it.
Now, of course, I wonder, I know aerodynamics aren't huge on these cars, but I wonder if Lamford does make his way to the front of his pack, if he'll be hurting with that crumpled front end. Right now, though, he's got to find his way by Ng if he wants to get up to the front of his pack, because he's still back there in 8th place, and he will try and make a move for 7th here, and in fact, Ng actually backs off and allows him that position.
Meanwhile, battle for the lead as AJ Bear still leads Zoko. Mick Claridge now looking on him, though, as the Brit wants to overtake the Australian but can't do anything down into Indianapolis. Getting ever closer with our top 4 as they start the lead. Brett Rial behind.
You see Claridge blinking a little bit, so that could be a concern in the future. Right now, Zoko's concern, I think, is Claridge, because he seemed quite content in the opening couple of laps to just stay behind Bear, but now with these two behind him, Claridge and Olstad, run them both down, he's going to try and want to make a move for the lead so he doesn't drop back to 4th.
Big thing we'll have to watch is Mick Claridge has complained in the past that correcting big slides quickly hurts his shoulder. So if he makes a mistake, that could actually put him out of the race depending on how his shoulder feels after that. It did so at Silverstone last week. Unfortunately, after fighting up front, he was not able to continue on for that battle for the lead. But right now, looking good here on lap 5 as he gets another run out of the outer loop, but runs out of track by the time they hit Indianapolis. And it's not just Brett Rial that they're leaving behind, Sam. Look at Jack Olstad start to drop back.
Yeah, Olstad was right up with them at the start of this lap, and so he could always fall into the clutches as Brett Rial. Now, the top 5 drivers all started within the top 5. Our big mover early on has been the driver in 6th, started 9th, as we've had an incident here.
Dmitry Goncharov, I believe, at Indianapolis, and he had someone else involved. Let's look at the replay. Down into the corner, rear end of that car does not want to go the same way as the front. And poor Don Good was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
See if either of them will be able to continue from that. Maybe we'll get a better idea of how much damage they took here.
Well, Don was able to go. He's still out on track. Oof. Front of that car not looking good. And that's where the radiator are on these things, Sam. Oh, AJ Bear's just saying he's got a pit. Did he not put enough fuel in?
We've seen this happen before where drivers haven't updated their qualifying setups.
So as AJ comes around, stays down low, there he goes. Oh my goodness, after sitting on the pole by quite a margin, that is crushing.
And Claridge was trying to capitalize on this. As soon as he knew Bear would be pitting, he knew this is his chance to try and get the lead from Zoko.
He gets a run out of the 90. It's very tricky going too wide, and Mick knows that he just needs to wait behind as they climb up through the S's. He's got to get himself a good launch up here through the right-hander, and he does, closing already on Benjamin Zoko. Zoko goes on the defense to the inside, but Mick lifts, interesting, well before he could have passed.
Maybe he knew it wasn't going to work out, although from our eye, it definitely looked like he probably could have done something. Now, they have about a second over Olstad. If they begin battling too hard, though, they could lose that. AJ Bear finally comes out of the pits. He's in last place.
Such is the harm if you have to pit. These cars do not expect pit stops, typically. As Mick Claridge having to go into the final corner, a defense once again for Benjamin Zoko is going to hurt his exit. There goes Mick Claridge down to the inside with a good launch off the final turn. As they come to the 90, this could be it. Can he seal the deal? Through the turn, it looks like Mick Claridge has got it. Move the Brit up to first. Zoko down to second. Olstad has now caught them because of the battle.
Let's see if these two can try and pull away from Olstead though. Once again, Clavidge running without a weight pedal, and he almost loses it in the S's, and that could allow Zoko to get a run on him.
Ooh, that correction. I wonder how much it's going to hurt Mick Claridge. You can see Zoko easily breezes by with the lost time with that slide, but he goes a little bit wide as Mick Claridge tries to peek his nose in, down through the outer loop. It's going to be a drag race out of the corner.
And Zoko has the inside as this goes on. This allows Olstead to close back in. Zoko will have the line to himself for Indianapolis. But Claridge gets a good run out of turn. This is where he made the move last lap, but it looks like Zoko's got a better exit this lap. And a Z3 battle, Brett Ray closes in a little bit from 4th.
So bringing them in, we have had a battle for position back between Koivisto, Langford in 5th. Langford was able to overtake the Finn and move himself up into the top 5.
Yeah, I was trying to give Koivisto a bit of a shout out earlier on, saying how the top 5 has remained up there, but he's moved all the way up into this battle for 5th after starting in 9th place. Meanwhile, Don Good now into the pits. Wonder if that's to get that damage repaired.
Oh, and Don Good crashes while entering the pit lane. We're going to watch on the replay. He was meaning to go in. How did he just lock up the brakes? What did he do here?
Yeah, looks like he just lost it there.
Now, in the meantime, Jack Olstead has gotten on the radio to let Mick Claridge know that he's blinking a lot. And I'm sure that Zoko, is very aware as Claridge gets a good run off the corner while Zoko bobbles. But Claridge can't do anything with it down into the final corner. They're still tight together. Olstead, despite these two battling, continues to drop off, just does not have the pace.
Yeah, I thought there may have actually been a little bit of contact coming out of turn 10, but yeah, Claridge has been blinking a little bit all race, and I think he's doing it little enough where he can still run out there competitively. The problem is when you get side by side in a proper battle like he is with Zoko now, you don't want to get too close to him. You don't know where his car actually is and where iRacing is telling you his car is.
Bear goes defensive once again, forces Claridge around the outside. What can the Englishman do? Lowe comes in very hot as the car slithers around. He catches it, but that's going to deny him the spot.
It was a good attempt, and he might be able to make another one here, because we don't really talk about how long this straight truly is. Once you take the boot section out of it, it's enough for a passing opportunity. You couldn't see it happen there. Zoko, and once again, these two almost get together coming out of turn 6.
Nick keeps wanting to do something coming out of Indianapolis, but just can't do it. And now Olstead is able to close in once again. Zoko really not wanting to give this thing up. I kind of wonder if he thinks that Mick is faster and that he's going to run away if he allows him into the lead as they go side by side. Are they going to go too wide through the S's? And Zoko gives it up.
For now. Let's see if he can get...
Whoa!
Oh, and now that could be a slowdown.
I don't think he was far enough over, but you can see how it compromised him into the right-hander as Zoko retakes it. Olstead now, he looks to the inside of Mick Claridge. This will be the first time he can get himself in a second if he can outbrake the Englishman. He's brave down into there, but Mick is braver as he almost goes to the outside of Zoko. Three-way fight for the lead. Can Mick get enough of a run around the outside? It's worked for Zoko, and it works for Mick.
They all have similar paints here. You see the giant numbers on them that they had back in the day for identification though. And it is Claridge in the lead in the number 1. The number 3 in second place is Zoko. And Olstead still remains in third place in the number 4. Brett Ray, the number 6, just biding his time behind them.
Brett is closed in to within a second of Olstead, but not close enough to attack now as they break for the 90. Gains a lot of ground there under braking in the downhill section. They hit the S's one more time. This is where it went awry for Mick last time, and yet he's still up in the lead now.
Yeah, I think you might have a point about why Zoko was fighting so hard to try and hold Claridge behind him, Joe. He's worried he might break away a little bit. But the problem is these drivers just can't keep this kind of racing up for 45 laps. I'm not saying they're not talented enough. It's more to do with the cars. I think the cars are so skittish You can only race by them side by side like that for so long.
Well, update on AJ Bear. He's obviously overtaken AJ Good, who has had that incident in pit lane, but he's caught Dmitry Gonsharov as he closes in up the S's, but he has to lift and goes way wide up into that corner. That's going to deny him the opportunity. AJ just now working on getting into 12th. Very much better on the brakes down to the corner, and it looks like maybe Dmitry let him have that one.
Now his problem is going to be the fact that when he catches the next two cars about 4 seconds up the road, that's Telmo Amaro and Ian Bassi. Those two have been in a bit of a battle themselves, so that could become a bit of a three-way fight for position.
Fans of Langford and Koivisto, that has not separated. The battle for 5th continues on. Koivisto still close up behind the Australian.
Yeah, but to give you an idea of the pace of the top 4 cars, the top 4 are 12 seconds ahead of this little battle for 5th we're seeing here.
Just incredible as Koivisto takes a peek down to the inside, down the back stretch, but can't do anything with it. Langford gives some room, though, around the carousel, but we've seen that high line through this banked corner really helps you get the shot off of it, and it does once again.
Yeah, this battle really heating up, Joe, at the point where the top 4 are actually spreading away a little bit.
Oh, and Jack Olstead is getting on the radio to tell Zoko, don't let it get away. It's stretched nearly a second between the Australian and the Brit.
I don't know if it's just the way they exited the turn last time, but I noticed on the last lap it actually looked like Zoko was catching Claridge down the back straight. He's definitely losing time on him though.
It's gone up to 1.2 seconds. I'm starting to think maybe Zoko and Olstead are going to have to work together for a bit of a slingshot here, Sam.
Yeah, we saw that work in one of our first races, I remember, on the Global SimRacing channel. We were doing the Indianapolis Oval race with Master Miadas, and the drivers running at the back perfected that slingshot down so much and were able to save fuel through it as well, that by the time the pit stops were said and done, they were no longer at the back, they were up there running up front. And that's, like I say, what these guys need to do is just trade positions down the back straight, and they might actually gain time and save fuel and tyres, perhaps even be able to run down Claridge at the end.
AJ Bear manages to get another one as Telmo Amaral gets demoted to 12th. AJ up to 11th. Next on his list is Ian Bassi.
Don't know if you saw at the back of your picture there, but Don Good has stopped on course. He'd gone a lap down after his problems earlier. Looks like he's gave up, so we're down to 13 cars, all 13 of which now are running on the lead lap.
Which might not be for long. Dmitry Gonsharov is already 44 seconds behind our leaders, and I think he just disappeared, actually. So that might solve that issue. Nope, he's back, but his connection not looking the most stable at the moment. Meanwhile, as we watch Ian Bassi get reeled in by AJ Bear, this could be a slam dunk down the backstretch as AJ gets the launch off the corner, looks to the inside. Ian decides not to defend. Give one more to AJ.
Let's give you a little points update on our drivers running up front. We didn't see Claridge on the graphic at the top of the show showing you the top 5 in points. That's because he's actually back in 6th in points. That being said, he is only, I believe, 6 or 8 points behind our race leader, so this win will definitely help him get up into that fight. Also, Zoko, we see him running 2nd. He's in that 4-way tie for 2nd in the points. Olstead is also up there. He's running in 3rd place. Guess the driver not having a great race right now, of course, is William Wright. We saw his troubles on the opening lap.
Certainly going to hurt Billy Bob in the championship. So will it, too, to Michel Dudagnon, who did not show up today. I wonder if we're going to see Mick go from 6th in the points all the way up to 1st after this.
It's a possibility, especially if Olstead and maybe even Ray can get by Suzuka, although Ray's dropped off of that battle for 2nd a little bit.
Indeed, much of our leaders have separated significantly. The closest battles are in the mid-pack between Langford and Koivisto, which has gone on for much of this race. And of course, AJ Bear's recovery drive has been giving us some entertainment. He has got to be kicking himself knowing he could have had a good fight up with Claridge all the way until the end with the pace that he had. That is certainly not going to happen today unless a lot of drivers run into trouble.
Now, of course, Claridge might not be out of the woods with his hand injury, because these cars, you really have to drive, and we're not even halfway through this race. Don't know how bad his hand has hurt him, but the next 30 laps aren't going to help matters.
Yeah, we're not even halfway through this race. Still a long way to go. And as you know, Sam, these cars can't be counted out. Mistakes are so easily made that this race is not over till that checkered flag falls.
Yeah, I want to see if we can get some lap times on Claridge, because I saw him bobbling there a couple of moments. He ran a 106.8 a lap ago. This time he runs a 107 flat, which was actually still faster than Zoko behind him, so I guess Zoko didn't have a pretty lap either.
Well, these cars can take some sliding and still be a little bit fast. Obviously, you don't want to slide too much. This car tends to be like most other race cars, where the smoother and the more straight you keep it, the faster you can be.
Yeah, the Langford-Koivisto battle is still the closest one on the track back there in 5th place. I almost wonder if Koivisto is going to think about doing anything down the back straight. Of course, he might not, given the fact we've still got over half this race remaining.
And there's no saving fuel in these cars, as there are no pit stops expected, so Koivisto is waiting behind. If he's waiting behind, it's only for strategic purposes to wait for his opportunity. As you mentioned, these two have been fighting for quite a long time, just holding at about half a second behind the UKNI driver of Langford, the Australian driver of Langford.
I haven't really gave a shout out to our drivers running in 8th and 9th so far today. No, it's not the most prestigious positions back there, but Simon Shaw and Jerry Lee Sweetland have had fairly clean races. They're now being caught from behind by AJ Bear, but they'll both remain running in the top 10, even if he is able to get by them both, and I have a feeling he should be able to do so in the next lap or two.
And Sweetland has just been caught by AJ Bear, who's cracked the top 10, is going to move his way even further as he outbreaks Jerry down into the 90. AJ Bear gets another one. And I don't know about you, Sam, but I love this name, Jerry Lee Sweetland. He showed up last week as well. Makes me think of a NASCAR driver named from the 50s or something.
Well, I was watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory recently, so I have different opinions on the word sweet. Being from England?
That makes sense. There we see AJ Bear, rated number 2 in this race, and it's going to be a hard ask for him to even make it up to that position. So I rating is in effect in this, and that means he's likely going to be losing just a little bit of I rating in this one, does AJ Bear.
Well, AJ just ran a 107.0 last time around. Now his lap time this lap might not be too hot, given the fact that Simon Shaw's bulking him a little bit in that last turn, which of course Shaw has every right to fight for this position. In my opinion, it just wouldn't be the smart thing to do. Bear has run him down from behind, and the more Shaw would have fought with him, the more Jerry Lee Sweetland would have ran them both down. So Bear is now up into 8th position. Last time around, still a 107.4, which is the 4th fastest lap from the last time around. It's just a matter of how fast can he go, how many positions can he move up.
Well, I'm sure AJ is grateful because Shaw did not defend, so as Shaw stayed to the side, AJ probably said, "Shaw, thanks, redemption."
Yeah, Claridge, we've noticed this, we've been talking about his blinking. Recently it's been getting quite a bit worse. He has had periods where he's been out for like 5 seconds or so.
Well, that gives at least a little bit of hope to Zoko. Probably not the way he would want to win this one, but as most drivers know, it would be any way possible to get up into the lead. You'll take it. 2 seconds back from McClarridge. We've been covering it, just doesn't have the pace. Olsted's been holding position behind him, though. Any sort of mistake from Zoko, I think, Sam, could cause the battle for second here.
Yeah, well, I'm watching the battle for fifth as well, because the lap car of Dmitry Goncharov is also in disconnect issues, and if that comes into play when Michael Lamford and Hideki Kavisto come up to put him a lap down, that could turn a bit ugly. Hopefully that won't be the case.
So Koivisto gives a little bit of a peek to the inside when they come up to Indianapolis. Not a serious attempt, just some reconnaissance. They come out of the final corner, and Langford looking much stronger, getting the power down, finding the grip from there. You know, one thing I love about this circuit, Sam, is that it just feels like a street course in a lot of places, where the barriers are so close, there's no runoff, and it makes it more intense in my mind running around this track.
Oh, absolutely it does, but in a way it also reminds me a little bit of Phillip Island. You wouldn't expect that. Phillip Island has large runoff areas, but just from the driver's seat, the way it flows, the turns are all kind of high speed. You kind of get that impression at Phillip Island as well. The banking works in your favour, so you've got all that nice driving, everything's going smoothly when it goes right, but as you mentioned, when it goes wrong, those walls are there to catch you.
Well, on screen, we saw Langford go extremely defensive on Koivisto. These are for the final 2 points paying positions. Right now, Koivisto in 6 would get 1. He is on the points chart. It's been a fairly good year for the Finn. Known not for being among the fast guys, but lower mid-pack driver. Has really capitalized on others' misfortune. Just run nice and smooth, and that counts for something in the Lotus 49, managing to claim you some points here and there throughout the season.
Well, these two, I haven't really crunched the numbers down too much, but they could be racing AJ Bear by the end of the race, and of course the more those two battle each other for that position, the better the odds are going to be in Bear's favour. Right now, behind Kavisto, who's getting really close to Lamford here, as a matter of fact, those two are going to throw that fact out of the window and battle each other here as Lamford goes out, drifts out over that white line. You don't want to do that too much. And Koivisto gets a position for now. Let's see if Lamford launches a counter-attack.
He got the run off the high side of the corner. Koivisto stays to the inside a little bit, comes back to the racing line now. And Langford misses his braking down into Indianapolis. That cost him some time.
Yeah, these two ran a 1:07.7 last lap around, which was only a few tenths slower than what Bear is doing. But that time around, battling each other, Lamford dropped to a 1:09 and Koivisto ran a 1:08, and that is just going to be an opportunity for Bear if he's able to eat a second or two out of their time each lap.
Before he gets to them, Andrew Ang is next to him. He's got 5 seconds up to the Midwest driver.
Yeah, so that will change in about 3 or 4 laps, because I think Bear has been running Eng down at about 1.5 seconds a lap.
Meanwhile, let's just check in on second place real quick, because Zoko, even though he's been dropping off of Claridge, it's now 3.5 seconds. Olsted is reeling him in. It's under 1 second between Jack and Benjamin.
Yeah, and Claridge once again blinks out for a long time, and then finally...
He comes back behind Zoko.
That is weird, because, well, watch where he disappears. He came back in the exact same place he disappeared. Normally, iRacing would let you keep driving. It must have froze his screen or something.
He just said that he disappeared into an alternate universe. Yeah, that is one of the most bizarre glitches I've ever seen on iRacing. Well, the racing gods want to see a close race, I guess. As McClarridge is now in second, and Zoko returns to first.
So Zoko will probably put up a fight again, and that will allow Olsted to run them both back down.
Well, and now that we know that for a fact that's why Zoko was fighting so hard, he does not want to let him by, and he is going to fight even more fiercely, I'm sure, to try and hold the Brit back. Mick's got to run down the front stretch. What is Ben going to do? Doesn't defend, but Mick also doesn't attack.
Wonder Mick saying, hey, Zoko, to be fair here, you and Olstead should stop for 3 seconds and let me go back up in front.
Oh, Ian Bassey with some problems. Oh, and it's a hard crash into the S's. Sam, this is always one of the worst fears, as we'll see his red machine gets a little sideways coming into the right-hander, and he is not able to save that slide.
Yeah, another driver right behind him, very close.
Let's see if we can figure out who that is. That was Telmo Almiral,
who, by avoiding the incident, will get to move up to 11th.
This is some great avoiding. I can't stress how difficult this is, because you can see he has to go to the left at the last second. This car does not like to change direction, Sam. Well,
not
he
only
manages to stay out of the barriers.
Not only change directions, but change angle. You see the track kind of falls one way and then falls the other way when it turns back to the right. Once again, Claridge blinking in and out.
There's a bit of chatter going on between the drivers as well. Mick has not been able to overtake Zoko yet. In all of this, I don't know if we need to go to it, but AJ Bear is now within 1.5 seconds of Andrew Ang. If that gets close to a pass, we'll jump over to that. Oh, big weave there from Mick Claridge. I'm not sure what he was doing. He wasn't close enough for a pass.
Whew, he almost got, yeah.
Closed in very tight on the gearbox of Zoko. We haven't really seen Mick be on the attack since that strange glitch. I wonder if he's playing patient, Sam. Even there, before at the start of the race, he was always ducking in, taking a look to the inside on that final corner, and now he's not doing it anymore. Langford manages to get back past Hideki Koivisto. Those two swapping positions all race long. Also a change with Bear and Ang as he looks to the inside. Wow, that's the first time we've seen someone use the bottom line for a shot off the corner.
I have a feeling Ang probably also wasn't ever going to put up much of a fight. Now Claridge finally gets a good run. As they go down the back straight, Zoko goes defensive to the inside, but as we saw before, he's really going to have to put up a fight here. He has a good line. See if he tries to get a run off a turn, because right now Claridge has moved up to the top spot.
So Zoko has got to do everything he can to hold on to the back of Claridge's draft at this point. As we saw, easier said than done. In the meantime, with 18 laps to go, AJ Bear, just so we can keep track of this, has to overcome 12 seconds to get to this battle and get into the points. So probably about 8/10 a lap is what he has to close in on that fight between the Finn and the Australian.
So this is the old F1 point scheme here, Joe. 10-6-4-3-2-1?
9-6-4-3-2-1.
Ah, okay. Does the driver with the fastest lap get one?
They do not. I don't believe it. They don't do bonus points in this series, so they're doing it old school style.
Yeah, I believe back in the way Formula 1 used to operate was 9-6-4-3-2-1, as you mentioned, but then they started adding a bonus point there to the driver who got the fastest lap, so that the drivers would feel free to still push their cars as fast as they could go towards the end of a race. I have a feeling we'll see a lot of that anyway today with all these battles going on out there.
Certainly these drivers don't like to give up until it's all over. As still seeing a little bit of blinking from Mick Claridge, but now they're going to have traffic to deal with on top of things as Telmo Almiral is about to be lapped in 11th. Mick Claridge approaching him very quickly.
Yeah, we saw Almiral making that evasive maneuver a little while ago. He started in 15th, the slowest qualifier actually started last because we only had 15 cars start. Running in 11th right now. Far ahead of Goncharov, who's had a few problems today, and he's just going to let the leaders by on the back straight here.
Nice lift, letting that battle through. And in fact, I think Jack Olstead might get him. Yes, he does. Sneaks on by the time they hit the carousel. Nice fair racing by Tilmo. I'm sure Bill would give him a big handy bear claw at the next Back Markers United meeting. Unfortunately, what this has allowed is Mick Claridge is now 1.2 seconds ahead of Zoko. It's looking like the same story all over again as the Australian just cannot keep the pace with the English drummer.
We'll have to wait and see how his connection holds up again, because that's the only reason he lost this lead in first place.
That makes our closest battle still between Koivisto and Langford, although Shaw and Sweetland have not given up on each other. That is a battle for 9th down in the lower half of the field. These two haven't seen a whole lot of, although we've seen Sweetland and a little battle with Bear earlier on when he was coming back through.
Sweetland's the last car on the lead lap right now, but they're about 17 seconds or so ahead of our race leader Claridge. I think he will lap him at the end of the race, but it'll be interesting to see if there's a battle going on for the lead again by that time.
Last time by Shaw was faster than Sweetland. Might be difficult to tell if Jerry is faster now that he has caught up to him, since it'll be a little bit different trying to get by as they climb up the hill. He lost a lot of time in the S's, though. Jerry obviously not as strong through that back and forth section.
True, looking at the numbers now, getting a better idea that it looks like Bear will catch Lanford and Koivisto by the end of the race, because he's only 10 seconds back of him right now, catching them at about 1 second a lap. Now, by the point he gets to Lanford and Koivisto, though, two drivers who are more competitive than the drivers Bear has had to pass, and given the fact there'll only be about 5 laps left to go, I believe, when Bear does catch him, how much of a fight will these two put up?
Oh, I'm sure at the end they are going to be fierce with AJ Bear. And with those two fighting, it's going to make it a little bit harder with him not wanting to tangle with either one of them. There you can see that battle for 5th continuing on. That's about as high as AJ is likely to get, with it being 13 seconds up to Brett Rial. It is now under 9 seconds for AJ Bear with 13 laps to go up to the fin of Koivisto.
And I think Sweetland is in the first opportunity he's really had to try and make a pass on Shaw. Let's see if he does it down the back straight. He's going to take a look to the inside. Shaw on the outside, and he's going to back off a little bit. Just give Sweetland the position for now. Let's see if he can pressure him into a mistake or keep touch with him and try and make a pass later on. Or maybe he's just going to attempt a crossover on the exit of a turn here. Sweetland on the inside, Shaw on the outside.
Drag race down to Indianapolis. Even though Sweetland has the inside, a little bit of a nose ahead, but Simon Shaw can't capitalize on that. Under braking gives it up to Jerry Lee Sweetland, who stays in 9th.
And this is the last thing Claridge will want to see when he comes up to lap these guys.
Which is rapidly approaching. Claridge put another lap on Gosharov. Last car running right now, who's 3 laps down from the leader.
It was 2 laps. He actually just spun off at Indianapolis, which puts him 3 laps down. I'm almost concerned about the incident points Goncharov is accumulating, because I've seen him off a couple of times today.
Yeah, big slide from Dimitro through Indianapolis. Thankfully, even though he overcorrected, there's a lot of runoff with that kitty litter out there, not paved like they have in real life currently.
Battle for 5th remains. See, I do like the fact they have the runoff area there on the exit of 10. I think it's it makes it a bit more of a tempting overtaking opportunity, knowing that if you run side by side through the turn, you're not going to end up in the wall.
Absolutely, as we ride on board with Langford still battling with Koivisto. Koivisto can't quite get the launch off the right-hander as they hit the top of the hill. So they're going to stay in position 5th and 6th respectively. You can see Langford running that classic Ferrari scheme on his Lotus. A number of drivers liking to keep cool old retro schemes on these cars. We've seen, appropriately being the Lotus 49, a number of drivers running Lotus schemes.
Yeah, the small cars, I mean, paint schemes of the time were very basic. You mentioned the team championship really being the nationality championship in this series. That's how the cars used to be painted, and, you know, the team represented the country. The Mercedes or silver being Germany, Ferrari, red being for Italy, etc.
Certainly made it very easy to identify, that's for sure. As we watch Langford work his way through the 90, once again looking very strong. Langford seems to have gotten a handle on things and is starting to leave Koivisto behind.
He needs to do it too, because Bear will be catching them in about 6 laps or so. Remember, with about 4 laps to go, I think they'll start battling.
And with 11 laps to go in total, still a lot of time for mistakes to be made from drivers. Most of the front runners seem to be kind of settling in, just trying to get their laps in and not worry about pushing it too hard. McClarich has extended his gap to 4 seconds over Zoko, who has actually been able to gap Jack Olstead a bit as well now. He's turned the afterburners on, not wanting to allow the California driver to claim the second place over him. 2 seconds between them.
Yeah, you mentioned Claridge. Take a look at those lap times we just saw. He recently turned the fastest lap of a race at a 106.332. His last lap was a 106.6, which was still, I don't know, about half a second faster than anyone else. And as I say, that AJ Bear goes and runs a 106.7. So Claridge was really setting fast laps, and I wonder if that's because the fuel is burning off. He's back up front. Things are going well because he doesn't seem to have as many connection problems right now either.
Indeed, we can see the pace that AJ Bear has that what could have been. Meanwhile, Langford and Koivisto side by side down into the outer loop. Langford defends to the inside. Koivisto trying to go around the outside. He looks for the over-under, getting a shot off the corner, but can't do it. He's going to have to stay in 6th.
And look at the back of the picture. At the very back, you can see Bear closing in on them.
He's cut it down to 5 seconds now.
And I think 5th, Joe, is going to be the most Bear can hope for. There's 12 seconds ahead of this pack to Brett Ray.
AJ, the only other driver in the field right now who can consistently run in the 106s. Zoko's peaked in there a few times, but mostly running in the 107. Same thing with Jack Olstead.
Well, Claridge has a problem now at the front of the field. He's coming up to lap this battle for 9th. Now, I expect they'll let him by okay, but what will happen to this battle for 9th with Sweetland ahead of Shaw? Shaw, I think, is going to try and let Claridge by on the front straight here. Claridge being held up a little bit, but he's got 4 seconds of air behind him, so I think he'll be alright as he does blink a little bit right there. Now we'll get by Shaw. What kind of fight will Sweetland pit up? Hopefully, for both of them, Claridge will easily get behind the back straight.
I think that's going to be the case. There was a nice big lift from Shaw down the front straight. Jerry Lee Sweetland up through the S's. As looked like almost a bit of a bobble there from Mick Claridge. No, he's just getting himself the run lined up. Which way is he going to go? Jerry stays low. Mick goes high and is able to easily lap him. It did lose him some time, but only about half a second, I'd say, over Zoko. That's not going to be enough for Benjamin to be able to run him down.
Yeah, Sweetland did well to get back in line there and keep the draft cut between himself and Shaw. Almost wondered if Shaw should have tried to do a bit of a better job drafting him, but there he is, he's there. This battle for 9th kind of continuing right now, and let's not forget, Zoko and Olstead are both going to have to lap these two quite soon.
Which could move them pretty close together here. We'll have to see how that plays out as Shaw has caught back up to Sweetland once again. This and the battle for 5th, the two closest on track still, has been for about half the race. 7 to go now. We're into the dying stages of the race.
Yeah, the battles usually seem to heat up in the closing stages and understandably slow. The drivers race so that the numbers are in their favour. And the numbers always seem to come down to those last few laps.
That gap between Koivisto and Bear now down to 3.5 seconds. Once he gets within the draft, Sam, it's going to close at a rapid rate. And Bear is pushing. You could see coming through the 90, car getting all kinds of squirrely. Putting a little puff of smoke out as he locks up that inside right, but no harm done. Still gaining time on 6th position, looking at potentially getting himself into the points.
Yeah, if I recall, Joe, these cars are quite kind on their tyres because they're kind of small, light, simple. Right now, by the way, Zoko lapping that Shaw-Sweetland battle.
And these tires very hard from that era. They last a long time. Even back in real life, from what I understand, would actually run them for more than one race once sometimes. So don't really need to worry about wearing them out too much. However, they can overheat, I can tell you that. You don't want to slide them around or cook them too hard because they can affect your grip that way, Sam.
Sweetland backed off to let Zoko by, and I think he was trying to back off to let Olstead by as well. However, Olstead was still behind Shaw. Once he realised Shaw was the next car behind him, he finally got back on the gas and beat him into the outer loop. But now Olstead is behind, it is ahead of Shaw, he's behind Sweetland, and I wonder if Sweetland's mistake will end up costing him that position to Shaw, but Shaw makes a bigger mistake and goes off Indianapolis.
And just in time, too, as Jack Olstead is trying to work his way past a big lift from Jerry Lee Sweetland, and poor Olstead, he's getting on the radio, not complaining so much, but just more bemoaning his bad luck in catching Jerry at that time.
Yeah, I think Sweetland is, when he backs off to let the lead lap cars by, he really is, I think, giving them a bit too much leeway. I know you've got to move out the way for them, but it really seems he's rolling off, and by the time he gets back going again, he's about a second behind.
Needs to maybe look into lifting just a little bit, or getting on the power a little bit later off the corner to allow them to accelerate by and not lose too much time down the straight. AJ Bear now within 2 seconds of Hideki Koivisto. They could probably see a little bit of a speck of him in their mirrors.
Yeah, I thought he would be catching them right around now. It looks like it might be another lap until he's finally there, though, by which point there'll only be 4 laps left to go.
He's going to have to hustle to get by them.
Claridge blinked out for a long time again. I think he returned. Yep, he's still in the lead.
Claridge has already won 1 race so far this season at nearly a 7-second lead. As long as his computer doesn't do what it did again, he's going to be able to take win number 2. Claridge missed the first 2 races, so he's coming back from quite a deficit to get back into this championship.
Yeah, could be leading this championship, despite the fact he has 2, like I say, he's been in 2 less rounds. I don't think this is doing enough for him in the points, though, considering Zoko. I think Zoko will actually be our points leader.
I believe you're correct. 8 points behind, 4 points behind. He'll be 1 point behind Zoko if it finishes in this order, if my math is right. And if you've watched GSRC, you know, don't count on us for doing math correctly.
You see, Shaw was really challenging Sweetland on the outside there into Indianapolis. It didn't work. This is going to be a battle that, unless anything serious happens, that I think won't be resolved until they cross the finish line.
I think we're going to have to leave that one, though, because AJ Bear is now within a second of Koivisto. The draft should be coming into effect as they come down to Indianapolis. I'm guessing, Sam, he's going to catch them on the backstretch here.
Yeah, that should certainly make things easy for him, although we'll wait and see if Koivisto or Lamford try and attempt any kind of crossovers. They cross the line, just 3 laps left to go for this trio now.
Bear can smell the points at this point. Down into the 90, he gets them. He's going to want to try and get the launch off of the corner. Can he get the timing right? He got himself a little bit too deep into the 90. Ooh, big bobble coming up to the S's. Oh, and they got a lapped car. Who is this? Ooh, good timing, though, for Dimitro to let them through. Wow, up into the top of the hill, into the grass for AJ Bear. He is pushing hard. And now Koivisto also pushing hard as he's trying to overtake Michael Langford. He doesn't want to be the one to lose out first to AJ Bear.
Too bad. Wasn't
Bear.
able to make a move. It looks like he'll be the one.
Bear sticks his nose in, but can't get the run off the corner. Koivisto does. Coming up on Langford, down to the outside of Indianapolis. The fire has been lit under these two as they fight. A big slide there for Langford as he gets his wheels into the grass. A look into the inside of the final corner for AJ Bear, but has to back out of Koivisto, who gets the launch out of the final corner. Ducks his nose down to the inside of Michael Langford. They're side by side down to the 90. This is going to hurt them on the launch up the hill. Slows them down, and look at the opportunistic move by AJ Bear. Gets himself into the points.
But now Langford is going on a bear hunt, because as they come up the hill here, he's going to get the slipstream. But that being said, Bear will also get the slipstream on Koivisto, and it will all kick off in the outer loop again with just 1.5 laps left to go.
Telmo Almiral allows them through. Back marker not going to be a factor in this one. AJ Bear looks to the inside, tries to outbrake down into the outer loop. He's given room by Koivisto. Can he hold on to it off the corner? He's got the room to swing up to the outside if he wants to, and he does.
It says last lap at the top of our screen. That's for the leader. These guys still have to cross the line to start the final lap.
Bear is going to have to fight hard, and so will Koivisto as Langford tries around the outside, but that one fails through Indianapolis.
In fact, Claridge not too far behind him. He's just coming out the outer loop now. 2 turns left to go, 9 seconds behind him. Only the connection would stop Mick Claridge from picking up his second win of the season.
2 corners to go. Now 1 corner to go for Mick Claridge. He had weird happenstance with a bizarre glitch, but even that didn't stop him as Mick Claridge takes his second win of the season here at Watkins Glen.
Bear will get 5th. The battle is on for 6th. Both cars in the grass, Koivisto and Langford. Langford lost less time though. He looks to the outside.
Bear is already stretched away, not under threat by these two as Koivisto defends to the inside. Jack Ulstead will, Benjamin Zoka will take second. Ulstead will take third. That will be your podium. AJ Bear in 5th currently.
And Ray takes 4th, but Langford looking for 6th in the final point. He gets the position in Indianapolis. Koivisto, can he get the good run out of the final turn, or did he just lose it? He lost it. Langford takes the final point in the Ferrari Lotus.
What a battle. Brett Real was coming home in 4th as well, and as the rest of the field comes across the line. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. We just watched round 6 of the Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge. And in the end, Mick Claridge managed to overcome even iRacing glitches to win today by nearly 9 seconds over Benjamin Zoko, who fought valiantly to try and do what he can to try and get another win. Jack Olstead rounds out our podium. Brett Rial just outside of it, couldn't keep the pace with those guys, but still took a quiet fourth. AJ Bear, he confirmed after the race he forgot to put in his race fuel, still had qualifying fuel in it, which is why he had to duck in. Still, a recovery drive to fifth at least limits the damage somewhat with 2 points. Michael Langford rounding out the last of the points in 6. Hideki Koivisto just not enough to try and beat Michael to that, finishes in 7th after a spirited battle. Andrew Ang comes home in 8th with Jerry Lee Sweetland in 9th. And rounding out the top 10, Sam, is going to be Simon Shaw.
Yeah, and then we get to page 2. We see Telmo Amare, who was the third driver to finish a lap down behind Jerry Lee Sweetland and Simon Shaw. Dmitry Goncharov, he had been running at the back towards the start. We now get confirmation he was having a lot of connection issues too. That's why he finished 3 laps down in 12th place. Ian Bassey, we saw his problems, as well as Don Good, and William Wright was in a big incident on the opening lap. Kyle Fisher did not qualify for the race.
We have interviews with our podium to do. First up is going to be our winner, Mick Claridge, who managed to come home with the win. And Mick, I understand that you've gotten rid of the weight penalty, but it seems like iRacing still wants to give you a handicap.
That was a bit bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were commenting we'd never seen a glitch like that here in all of our years of coverage. What did it look like on your end? On our side, you disappeared and reappeared in the exact same spot.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was doing it all race, and I know just reading in the chat at the end of the race, post-race now, a few guys had problems with starters, but mine was horrendous, and it was happening in the turn after the carousel turn, the left-hander. It was happening a lot there. So I was actually trying to time it so I didn't have to sort of be behind anyone in that turn. But that's impossible to do really. And and then I was just going down the front straight, and it was every time I was going over the finishing line as well, it was just doing a little stutter. And then that massive one, it was just, like the sound was just replaying, the screen was frozen, it was just going do, 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 do. All of a sudden it come back on and bends in front of me, about 6 foot away from the front of my car. It was just unbelievable.
Well, at least you guys were lucky enough that you didn't reappear in the middle of his car. That could have been disastrous for you two. Now, do you anticipate not putting the fuel in for the fuel penalty in for the rest of the season and just try and run up at the front, or do you think you'll put it back in if your arm starts to feel better?
Well, it's such a puzzling thing for me to try and work out what to do, because you've seen in every race I pretty much span off with heavy fuel, so I decided to go normal race fuel this race and just run sort of like a slowish sort of qualifying lap, and try and sort of get down the grid a bit. I was going to not qualify at all, but I just thought that's just another recipe for disaster. So I wanted to be a bit further down, and but you have to sort of try and read the race as well. Lap times are always really close here, so I thought, if I sort of stick myself down and outside the top 10, I probably won't get up the front anyway. So it was just a weird one today. I'll probably go heavy fuel next week because my arm is getting better now.
Oh, glad to hear that it's recovering still. This is win number 2. Before we let you go, this is going to move you within 1 point of the championship lead. Is this season still for fun, or are you thinking crown again?
No, do you know what? I looked at it. I watched the last broadcast race, and I watched the points at the end. I must admit, I didn't really know where we were. I know it was all pretty close, and but now, I'm gonna. I'm pretty sure Michelle's gonna be back next week, so I'll probably be running slightly less fuel than him, and we'll try and fight. It's I'd say race quality of races are more sort of in my mind than the championship. Like I've always said, we want some guys, other guys running up front and be able to fight. But yeah, I've tried the heavy fuel thing, the really heavy fuel thing, and even tried a full tank at Silverstone. It's just impossible for me to drive. The car's just so lazy and horrible. It's just that first slide that I can catch, but then when it's time to quickly correct the steering to get it back round straight, there's just no chance I can't do it. So yeah, so I want to be able to run a bit more fuel, but so we'll see. I'll have to do a lot of practicing with some other guys to get a good base on the lap times.
Makes sense. Well, again, congratulations on the win. That was Mick Claridge, P1 today here at Watkins Glen. Win number 2 for him this season. Up next, Sam is going to talk to our second place finisher, Benjamin Zoko, who just could not run down Mick here at the Glen.
Yeah, you talk about Mick getting P1 in the race, but I believe we have a new points leader now. So congratulations on that, Benjamin, and a solid run up there today.
Yeah, it was a good fun race. I'm definitely sweating after that one, and it's good to be back leading the championship again. Although, like last time, I don't think it's going to be for too long.
Now, of course, Mick had to pass you twice before he could take a checkered flag first. You put up a lot of a fight the first time, but the second time he passed you after the connection issues, it looks like he was able to run away from you a bit easier.
Yep, that's pretty much how it happened. I tend to be a little bit quicker at the start of the race, and I was able to keep up with him and fight him harder early on. But the second time round, I made a mistake in the S's, and he got by. And with some of the issues he was having, I wasn't really risking to go too deep into the carousel anyway, and I was already starting to struggle with the carousel. So there wasn't much I could do really. Even halfway through the race, Jack came on the radio and said, "Don't let him get away." And I was pushing as hard as I could for every one of those 45 laps, flat out the whole way.
Yeah, absolutely. We could tell you were doing a great job out there, because at the end of a race, you were able to run away from Jack behind you as well. We finished about 2.5 seconds behind you. Are you satisfied with the second place finish, considering you led a few laps out there today?
Oh yeah, very satisfied with today's race. Having a good battle with Mick is always nice. It's always good, clean, hard racing, but makes me feel like I'm improving. I can't, in past seasons, I haven't been able to be faster than Jack, and it's good to be faster than Jack. It's like a bit of a benchmark for me. And, same with Mick, to be able to finish the race, within like 6 or 10 seconds or something of Mick, even though he did the time warp there. It's positive. I know that if we were missing a few fast drivers today for whatever reason, Igor from last week and Michelle and over. So that's probably why I finished a bit higher than I did. But no, I was competitive. I was fast, and I had a good race, and I was pushing the whole way. And my lap times are really consistent, and I was kind of expecting perhaps to fade a bit towards the end of the race, and I was expecting to end up battling with Jack towards the end, but I managed to somehow keep the pace and hold him off. So yeah, it was a really good race for me, really good performance.
Well, we wish you the best of luck at the next race in Road America, and you're going to go in there with a points lead, and who knows, maybe Mick will do the time warp again.
Yeah, I even mentioned in the race that the internet gods would take care of him, and they did, but not well enough. So I'll have to sacrifice some more versions, I think.
All right, back to you, Joe. I think we got another driver waiting in the wings.
We didn't get Jack to come in and talk to us, but fourth place, Brett Real, has come to give us an interview on how his race went. And Brett, usually we expect these races at Watkins Glen to be exciting ones with the draft, keeping people close. But from our perspective, yours seemed like one of the quietest and most boring. Did it seem that way to you?
I wouldn't call it boring, but hey, it's always fun. I mean, the main thing with me is I was keeping up with them at first, but I screw up too much. So I start to screw up, and then next thing you know, I drive too hard, and then I screw up even more, and I get further behind. Then I just start to relax and drive again. But it's always a fun track. I wish there more people would show up for Watkins Glen, because then it can be a total braff fest.
Well, the good news is this is a nice haul of points for your tally, and it's going to allow you to jump up a little bit in the order, I believe. But what's your goal at the end of the season as far as the championship points? Are you not even worrying about that?
I'm not really worried about the championship points. It's just, it's just a really great group of guys to drive with. And, if we can get Team America #1 again, that's the main thing,
And so you guys were leading it coming into this. We'll see if that's the same coming out, though. Well, since this tends to be one of the favorites of the Lotus 49 group, what would you say to bring new drivers into the series? Anybody watching this who sees the 49 and goes, this makes me kind of curious. What would you say to tip someone over the edge?
Well, I mean, my whole history with this is, this is pretty much the first car I kind of drove after the MX-5 when I joined up about a year ago. And, I just fell in love with it. And mostly it's just talk to the people in practice and in the forums. Definitely grab setups. Some people have really aggressive setups like Mick that'll, turn you sideways if you're not careful. And some have, stable setups and boring ones. I think I'm one of those people that won't be the fastest, but they'll get you through the race and you can have a lot of fun with it. And basically what it comes down to is that the people need to know how much fun the car is and how easily controllable it is if you just take a little bit extra time with it.
I would agree. It's to me once you get used to this car, everything else seems a little bit boring the way this thing dances and slides around. Well, again, congratulations on the 4th place, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, always nice talking to you.
That's Brett Rial, 4th place finisher here today. That's going to close out our interviews and close out our broadcast. Of course, before we go, we want to reiterate this was the Racing for Rick World Cup Challenge, and we are raising money for the ALS Foundation. If you want to help donate to that charity, we have the link in the YouTube description. And of course, thanks to Jack Olstead and Ben Zoko, who have done a lot behind the scenes to help organize this broadcast for the community. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel or Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. The next race is going to be at Road America. That'll be Saturday, July 29th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.